Hello fighters! I'll be guiding you all through some of the best settings to have right now, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see more fighting tips. I'm on a fresh new account right now, so I can kind of go through the settings with you all. So without further ado, let's get started. So you start by opening the settings, press tab, and it'll bring up this thing, and press settings, and there you go, that's the whole settings menu. I do want to start off by saying most of these settings are preference based. I will be trying to give you guys some good pointers and good choices to make. Starting with the sounds, you can pretty much do whatever it is. Just make sure that you can hear everything clearly and nicely. I personally have music all the way down to 0 just because it helps with editing, so you can insert your own music later if you're a content creator. However, there's something I like to do is I turn down my sound effects and then turn up movement to all the way up. That's because the footstep sounds are normally really quiet, and I can turn up the Roblox volume so I can hear the footstep sounds more clearly, which probably doesn't help very much, but it's nice, I guess. Next one is going to be visuals. Brightness, saturation, contrast. I'm not going to go through exactly what these do. You can kind of just mess around with them yourself, though usually you want to keep these at 0 because that's the default settings, and it might look a bit messed up if you try to change them. You can turn saturation a little bit up or down, I guess, if it helps your eyes. I would try not to move it too far from 0, so I'll just leave it at 0 for now. Bloom basically makes glowy parts more glowy. Turn this off so you're able to see so that your visuals are more clear and you're able to focus more. Depth of field basically makes faraway objects a bit blurrier. It's not as noticeable in this game, though you can just turn this off. Sun rays are also not noticeable. In case they become distracting, you can turn this off. Shadows are kind of a preference. If you turn it off, then the shadows disappear, which can help. Maybe like you don't want enemies hiding in the shadows, or you want to be able to see more clearly on dark maps. You can use this to turn it off. However, if you struggle with stuff like depth perception, then you can turn it back on, and that might help you a little bit. If you are struggling with performance, I would turn this off though. The next one is map saturation. Map saturation is basically a toggle for specific maps. I think the only one I can really think of right now is Fractured Space, where during the 1 minute left, it plays kind of like a screen effect, where it makes everything super desaturated. If you like that and you think it's cool, you can keep this on, but otherwise, if you find it distracting, yeah, you can turn it off. Next one are the game settings, and these ones are pretty important, so listen up. Field of view, you always want this pretty much maxed out, which basically lets you see more. It zooms out a bit more, and you're able to see more around you. And that, I don't think I need to explain why that's good. And also, if your FOV is lower, then the character you're controlling appears like really close to you, and that can be a bit weird. So you can scale this up and make it higher. Screen shake is not a good thing in combat games where you need to focus, so turn this down. I'm not really sure where there is screen shake in fighting, since I always thought this game didn't have screen shake. So just turn it down to stay safe. Damage size is defaulted to 1, and you should just keep it this way because this changes the size of the damage text that appears when you shoot enemies. If you turn this down, even like 50%, then it already becomes kind of small. And the damage numbers are really useful because of this next setting called Global Damage Indicators. When you damage opponents, when this number comes up, it usually only appears for you if this setting is off. However, let's say like somebody else on your team or like an enemy shoots your teammate, and you have global damage numbers on, then that means you can see it anyways, and you usually want this on for a pretty good reason. So let's say you're playing a character like Hyper Laser, who has shots that go through walls for ZX or like M2, and I mean, I know where they are now, but let's say I don't know where they are, and let's say they're getting away or something. Not only does it let you know how much shield and health they're on depending on the color of the number, but it also lets you see them through walls. I messed that up. But it also lets you see their walls, and I can shoot them from here. That's pretty cool. And that's pretty useful because Slingshot's ult actually got nerfed. Slingshot's ult still goes through walls and stuff, but you can no longer see enemies through the walls. But the damage number is going to be useful for that. So I would recommend to have this number on, because if your teammates are helping you fight, then you should pretty much be seeing those damage numbers all the time. Recast indicators is pretty much just for specific characters, so like play Shuriken, and there's like the jump to spawn thing, this like little text box on the side, and it's kind of useful for me anyways because it lets you know what state you're on without needing to look at the character directly. And also it's just nice if it's your first time playing a character or something, or you need reminders. If you don't like it, you can turn it off though. I personally think it looks really cool though, so I personally keep that on. flash on damage is a setting that makes it so that when you damage an opponent, like this one, since his team color is black, you can see from the black outline, he flashes black when I shoot him. If I turn off flash on damage, then he no longer flashes and only the damage number appears. Personally, I think this is good to help you know whether you did damage, and it also, since it also applies to yourself, let's say I play rocket and I shoot myself to rocket jump, then it will flash and I can see when I'm taking damage, and it also applies when the enemy shoots me. So in case you're not really good at looking around the screen and you're looking at the cursor, your character's really close to the cursor, and if it flashes, then you can kind of just see that you're taking damage. So I personally keep this on. Next up is the team colors, and obviously team colors are very preference oriented, though what I would recommend is turning this bar on the side all the way up and keeping the team colors on the very edges of here, so that when you select your other team color, then you can make it all the way on the other side so they contrast as much as possible. So personally on my main account, I like to use cyan over here, and the opposite of that would be like red here, but there's a specific map called Sword Fighting Tournament that's all red, and I don't like that. So I make my enemies pink because it's still pretty contrasting, and also because magenta is not a very natural color and you're almost never going to see it inside of maps. So this means that your opponents, if they're magenta, they're always going to stand out, and I really like that. And if you really want to go the extra mile, then you can select your enemies as magenta, and then this team like across from magenta. You can keep your team green, but I just like cyan. If you want to do that, however, you need to make sure that this setting down here, always team 1, is on, and I think that everybody should turn this on, because it basically makes sure that it guarantees that your own team is always going to be the top color and your enemy team is always going to be this color. And that's really useful because your eyes don't have to readjust to the different colors in case you're on the other side suddenly. And it also makes sure that your enemies are always this color if you want it to be like that. Use festival colors doesn't really apply right now since there isn't a festival going on. However, you can turn it on if you find it fun. This will override your current color settings, but just be aware that if you do turn it on, the festival colors might not be the greatest. Last color setting is recolor fighters, and this is a new setting which I think is really cool. And basically what happens, I'll just show you guys. So right now I have it turned on, which used to be the only thing you could have. As you can see, my colors and stuff, they are all like blue. And this is because my team color is blue. And this also applies to enemies and teammates, so if you really need to quickly tell apart who is on your team and who isn't, then this is a good way. So now I've turned off recolor fighters, and as you can see, I still have that blue outline to show that it's my team, and that outline will still be on any opponents, and their attack effects will still be this color. However, it keeps the original color of fighters. So let's say like the boots down here. Normally if you're playing with recolor fighters, it would just recolor both the shirt and the boots to the same color. And here actually gets to respect that. And so if you have like a specific skin or fighter or whatever, and they have a cool like color usage that normally gets recolored to one color, and you like that, or you just like the models and you like how everything looks with the right colors, then you can turn off recolored fighters. And I personally like to play like this. Now let's talk about the crosshair settings. The crosshair is obviously customizable, and I'm not really going to explain what each one of these do, you can just play around with it. But pretty much all I have to say is that you just want to make sure that you can use it. Don't do something really stupid. You can if it's a challenge or whatever, but if you want to play optimally, try playing around with different cursor types. I would recommend keeping the cursor color to white since it stands out from most environments. And the outline color is kind of useless because if I turn on the outline, no matter how big I make the cursor blocks, the outline's always going to be the same length, like same thickness. Probably because of how Roblox works with the frames that they use. However, I used to play with a dot cursor. I kind of still do sometimes, though it's a bit annoying too. What you can do is turn the distance down a bit and turn the length and thickness. So you can get a small dot, but then if you want to make like a bigger dot, you can make it a little bit thicker. And then the bigger you make it, the more it's going to look like plus shape. But if you want a dot cursor, this is how you do it. Now, the final part is going to be pings. So ping color, I like to set it as white, since it stands out a lot. However, you can set it to anything as long as it sticks out to you. Make sure that you're able to notice the pings efficiently and quickly in case your team needs it. And to help, you can turn ping volume all the way up to 200. You can turn on pings in chat as well, since it helps you notice. And also, the pings in chat are going to have more noticeable differences in their messages. So let's say the healing ping. If I open the chat, there's a healing ping, and I might have full health, I'll say I don't need healing. The ping symbol that appears above your head also changes, I think, depending on your health. Yep, it will flash like red. However, just in case your team color is like red or something, this might not be noticeable. The message in the chat is going to be different though. I think it also changes for the hello ping. So if I say hello on Rocket, it's going to be these messages. But if I go to Scythe, then these messages are obviously very clearly different. So that's just kind of cool. Team color pings has to be off if you want this color, because team color pings is just going to override it with whatever your color up there is, and I recommend having a different color from your team color just so it's more distinguishable. Last one is Blockstrap Rich Presence, and this is pretty much not applying to most people. This is for a bootstrapper for Roblox PC players, and it only applies to those who have Blockstrap installed and use Discord activity. And so Discord can show what game you're playing, and normally it would just show you Roblox. But if Blockstrap, if this setting is on, and you have Blockstrap and Blockstrap integration on in Blockstrap settings, then this can show cool stuff like the current map you're playing, mode, how you're winning or losing, I think. It also shows a fighter you're playing and your current KDA. That's pretty fun. And if you don't want people stalking you, you can just turn this off. Down here is zoom sensitivity, and I would just recommend to set it at 3. Everything else here is kind of just whatever you do what you want. I just turn zoom sensitivity to 3 so that when I zoom in, it doesn't slow down the cursor. Anything under 3 is going to slow down the cursor when you zoom in. See, if I move it at a constant rate and then press shift, it slows down. And it slows down even more if I set it to like 0.01, then I can basically just not move the cursor. So I recommend this at 3, which is what I do. But if you want it to slow down, just keep in mind that's what this thing does, and that can be useful. Obviously, these are just some little settings, and they probably won't make you insane at the game or anything, but give them a try. If this video helped you, you should subscribe, since I love making videos about fighting tips. That's all for today, and consider checking out another video, and I'll see you all on the flip side.